The afternoon sun painted golden streaks through Sweet Memories Bakery's lace curtains. Eva Lancaster sat motionless in her wheelchair before a simple white cake, 22 candles flickering in the quiet space. She was utterly alone on her birthday. The door chimed softly. A 30-year-old man entered, followed by his 6-year-old daughter chattering happily, holding a small gift box. When they saw the young woman sitting alone, the little girl tugged her father's shirt and whispered urgently. The man approached gently and asked, "May we join you?" Eva Lancaster had learned to measure life in the spaces between her father's phone calls. 22 years old, paralyzed from the waist down since a car accident 4 years ago, she inhabited a world of luxury that felt more like a gilded cage. Her father, Richard Lancaster, was the CEO of Lancaster Technologies, a man who commanded boardrooms and influenced markets, but couldn't find 5 minutes for his only daughter. The accident had changed everything, not just her body, which would never again respond to her desperate wishes to stand and run, but her relationship with the only family she had left. Richard had retreated into his work with the fervor of a man running from his own helplessness. He provided everything money could buy: round-the-clock nurses, a mansion with every possible accommodation, the finest doctors who all said the same thing: she would never walk again. What he couldn't provide was himself. Eva had grown accustomed to birthdays marked by bank transfers and brief text messages, to holidays celebrated with staff who were paid to care, to a life where her wheelchair wasn't just a physical reality, but a symbol of the distance between her and the rest of the world. Daniel Morris carried his grief differently. A 30-year-old widower who worked with his hands as a carpenter. He had raised his daughter Lily alone for 5 years since his wife Sarah died during childbirth. Where Richard Lancaster fled from pain, Daniel had learned to live alongside it, teaching his daughter that sadness and joy could exist in the same heart. His workshop smelled of sawdust and possibilities. Each piece of furniture he crafted a meditation on permanence in a world where nothing truly lasted. Lily had inherited her mother's sparkling eyes and her father's gentle heart, a combination that made her peculiarly sensitive to the loneliness in others. Perhaps it was because she had grown up with the ghost of a mother she never knew, learning early that love could transcend presence, that families could be both broken and whole simultaneously. Daniel had taught her to notice the quiet ones, the people sitting alone in corners, the ones whose smiles didn't reach their eyes. Everyone needs a friend. Lily, he would tell her. Sometimes, we need to be brave enough to offer friendship first. When Lily saw Eva sitting alone with her birthday cake, something in the child's heart recognized a kindred spirit in isolation. She had seen that same look in her father's eyes on the hardest days, when he thought she wasn't watching. The little girl's intuition, unmarred by adult hesitation, told her this beautiful lady in the wheelchair needed exactly what they could offer. Not pity, not charity, but simple human connection. Daniel, following his daughter's lead, as he often did in matters of the heart, saw in Eva's posture the weight of sustained loneliness. He recognized the careful way she held herself, as if taking up less space might make her absence less noticeable. His carpenter's eye, trained to see potential in rough wood, saw past the expensive clothes and the wheelchair to the person underneath, who was drowning in solitude. The decision to approach her wasn't calculated or questioned. It was as natural as breathing, as necessary as his next heartbeat. "Excuse me," Daniel said after Eva had looked up at them with surprise. His voice was warm, careful not to startle. "We were wondering if we could join you. My daughter would like to wish you a happy birthday." Eva's eyes widened, shifting between the man with kind eyes and the little girl practically vibrating with excitement. When was the last time someone had asked to join her rather than being paid to be there? Lily didn't wait for an answer, bouncing forward with a small cupcake she had been saving, decorated with a star-shaped candle. "I'm Lily. This is for you. I made it with Daddy this morning. We come here every year on this day because it's my mommy's birthday too. She's in heaven, but Daddy says she can still see us celebrating." The innocence of the child's offering, the matter-of-fact way she spoke of death and celebration in the same breath, pierced through Eva's carefully constructed walls. Daniel pulled out a chair, moving with the unhurried grace of someone who had learned that the most important moments in life couldn't be rushed. "I'm Daniel. That's a beautiful cake. No one should celebrate alone." Eva found herself nodding, unable to speak past the sudden tightness in her throat. When Lily started singing Happy Birthday in her sweet, slightly off-key voice, Eva closed her eyes and made a wish for the first time in 4 years. The wish was simple, so simple it almost hurt. She wished not to be alone anymore. Daniel's baritone joined his daughter's soprano, creating a harmony that filled the small bakery with more warmth than Eva had felt in years. Other customers glanced over with smiles, but Eva barely noticed them. Her world had narrowed to this table. These two strangers, who had chosen to see her, to sit with her, to make her birthday mean something again. Over the following weeks, what began as a chance encounter evolved into something deeper and more profound. Daniel and Eva met regularly at the park where Lily fed ducks and chattered endlessly about her drawings, her favorite books, and the mother she imagined through her father's stories. Eva discovered that Daniel's presence didn't demand anything from her. He didn't look at her wheelchair with pity or discomfort. He simply saw it as part of her, like the way her hair caught the light, or how she bit her lower lip when concentrating on a book. Their conversations meandered through safe territories at first. Literature, Lily's antics, the weather. Before venturing into deeper waters, Daniel spoke of Sarah not with the raw anguish of fresh grief, but with the worn smoothness of a stone that had been turned over in his pocket thousands of times. He told Eva how Sarah had been a kindergarten teacher who believed every child was a universe of possibility. How she had painted their tiny apartment with murals of fantastical forests where anything could happen. How she had faced her pregnancy complications with a courage that still took his breath away. Eva found herself sharing things she hadn't told anyone, not even the expensive therapists her father had hired. She described the moment of the accident with clinical detachment at first. The drunk driver who had run the red light. The sensation of flying through the air. The strange peace before the pain. Then, gradually, she revealed the deeper wounds, waking up to her father's CEO mask firmly in place as he discussed her care with doctors, as if negotiating a business deal, the slow realization that she had become a problem to be managed rather than a daughter to be loved. The endless days in the mansion where every need was anticipated, except the need to be seen as more than her disability. Lily would often interrupt these heavy conversations with the perfect timing children possess, dragging Eva into her imaginative games where wheelchairs could fly, and sadness was just another color to paint with. The little girl had decided that Eva was essential to her world, frequently asking, "Are you happy today, Miss Eva?" with the serious concern of a tiny therapist. One afternoon at their usual coffee shop, while Lily was absorbed in coloring at a nearby table, Daniel watched Eva laugh at something the child had said, and he felt something shift in his chest. It wasn't the dramatic lightning strike of new love, but rather the gentle recognition of possibility, like the first green shoot pushing through winter soil. Eva must have sensed his gaze because she turned to him, and for a moment, they simply looked at each other. The coffee shop faded away, and there was only this. Two people who had been broken in different ways, discovering they might fit together not despite their damage but because of it. Daniel reached across the table, his fingers barely brushing hers. "Eva, I need you to know something. Lily and we're not here because we feel sorry for you. We're here because you make our days better. You make us better." Eva's eyes filled with tears she didn't try to hide. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "Neither do I," Daniel admitted. "But maybe we can figure it out together." Their relationship grew slowly, carefully, like a garden tended by people who understood that the most beautiful things required patience. They discovered joy in small moments. Lily teaching Eva to fold origami cranes. Daniel adjusting restaurant chairs without being asked so Eva's wheelchair fit perfectly. Eva reading stories to Lily with different voices for each character while Daniel watched with soft eyes. The universe of their small, healing family might have continued to expand gently, but Richard Lancaster had been watching from the shadows of his corporate tower. He had hired private investigators the moment his household staff reported that Eva was spending time with inappropriate company. The reports on his desk painted a picture that filled him with cold fury. Daniel Morris, a working-class widower with modest means, spending hours with his damaged daughter. To Richard, the conclusion was obvious. This man was a predator, targeting a vulnerable heiress. He summoned Eva to his study one evening, a room she rarely entered with its wall of monitors displaying stock tickers and its smell of expensive leather and disappointment. "You will cease all contact with this man immediately," Richard commanded, not looking up from his laptop. "He's using you, Eva. What else could he possibly want from someone like you?" The cruelty of the words, the casual dismissal of her worth beyond her bank account, hit Eva like a physical blow. Someone like me? She repeated, her voice dangerously quiet. You mean your broken daughter? The one you can't stand to look at because she reminds you that you're not actually God. Richard finally looked up, his face a mask of controlled anger that Eva remembered from hostile takeover meetings she'd witnessed as a child. I'm protecting you. You're naive, Eva. You've been sheltered. You don't understand how the world works. Eva laughed, a bitter sound that seemed to surprise them both. Sheltered? I've been imprisoned. There's a difference, Father. Daniel and Lily see me. They actually see me. When did you last look at me without seeing a liability? Richard stood, his full height meant to intimidate. A tactic that worked in boardrooms, but only made Eva feel smaller in her chair. Enough. If you continue seeing him, I'll take legal action. I'll claim he's taking advantage of a disabled person. I'll destroy his little carpentry business. Is that what you want? Eva felt the trap closing around her. She knew her father's threats weren't empty. He had destroyed competitors with less motivation. The thought of Daniel and innocent Lily being crushed by her father's machinery was unbearable. That night, she sent Daniel a text with shaking hands. I can't see you anymore. Please don't contact me. I'm sorry. The words felt like swallowing glass. Each letter a betrayal of everything real she'd found. Daniel stared at the message, reading it over and over, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. The text seemed so unlike Eva, so cold and final. Lily found him sitting in the dark living room hours later, still holding his phone. Daddy, why are you sad? She asked, climbing into his lap with the instinctive understanding that her father needed comfort. Miss Eva can't see us anymore, sweetheart, he said, his voice rough with unshed tears. Lily was quiet for a long moment, processing this information with the deep thought children give to incomprehensible adult decisions. But she loves us, Lily said simply. I know she does. She smiles different when she sees us. Real smiles. Not pretend ones. Daniel hugged his daughter tighter, amazed at her perception and heartbroken that she was learning so young that love wasn't always enough. For 3 days, he respected Eva's wishes, though it felt like holding his breath underwater. His workshop felt oppressive, each piece of wood reminding him of stories he'd planned to share with Eva. Lily stopped singing around the house. Her usual cheerfulness dimmed like a light with a dying battery. On the 4th day, when Lily asked if Eva didn't want them because they weren't rich, something in Daniel snapped. Not in anger, but in determination. He wouldn't let Lily believe that love was conditional on bank accounts. They drove to the Lancaster mansion, a journey into a different world where gates were meant to keep people out rather than welcome them in. The security guard was polite, but firm. I'm sorry, sir. You're not on the approved list. Behind him, the mansion loomed like a beautiful prison. Lily pressed her small face between the iron bars of the gate. Miss Eva, she called out. Miss Eva, we miss you. Please come back. Her voice carried on the wind, a child's pure longing that no amount of money could buy or sell. Inside the mansion, Eva heard that precious voice calling her name. She was in her room, having refused to leave it since her father's ultimatum. The sound of Lily calling for her was unbearable, each word a reminder of what she'd given up to protect them. She wheeled herself to the window and saw them at the gate, Daniel standing with his hand on Lily's shoulder, both of them looking lost. Something inside Eva snapped. Not broke, but snapped back into place, like a dislocated joint finally returning home. She thought of all the years she'd been obedient, all the times she'd chosen her father's comfort over her own happiness, and she realized that protecting Daniel and Lily from her father meant nothing if it destroyed them all anyway. Eva maneuvered her wheelchair to the service elevator, the one the staff used, avoiding the main floors where her father might be. She made it to the kitchen's back door, where Maria, the cook who had known her since childhood, took one look at her face and simply opened the door without a word. Be happy, Mija, Maria whispered, understanding without explanation. The evening air was cold, and rain had started to fall. But Eva didn't care. She knew where she needed to go, drawn by the same instinct that had first brought them together. By the time she reached Sweet Memories Bakery, she was soaked through, her wheelchair harder to push on the wet sidewalk, her arms aching from the effort, but she persisted. She pulled open the door with trembling hands. the bell chiming her arrival like an answered prayer. The bakery was nearly empty, but there, sitting at the same table where they'd first met, were Daniel and Lily, looking as lost as she felt. They had gone there after being turned away from the mansion, drawn by the same magnetic pull of memory and hope. "Eva!" Lily cried out, jumping from her chair and running to her, wrapping her small arms around Eva's wet form without hesitation. "You came back! I knew you would! I told Daddy you loved us!" Daniel stood slowly, his eyes taking in her soaked state, the determination and desperation written across her face. Without a word, he removed his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders, his hands lingering for just a moment, feeling her trembling beneath his touch. "You're freezing," he said softly. "What are you doing here, Eva?" She looked up at him, rain and tears indistinguishable on her face. "I'm choosing," she said simply. "For the first time in 4 years, I'm choosing. I choose you. I choose Lily. I choose us. My father can threaten all he wants, but I won't live in that prison anymore. I won't." Daniel knelt beside her wheelchair, bringing himself to her eye level, his own eyes wet with emotion. "Eva, are you sure? Your father could make things very difficult. He could hurt us financially, legally." Eva reached out, cupping his face with one cold hand, feeling the roughness of his jaw, the warmth of his skin. "Let him try. I've already lost the use of my legs. I won't lose my heart too. You and Lily are my heart now." The door burst open with a violence that made them all jump. Richard Lancaster stood there, rain-soaked and furious, having tracked Eva through the GPS on her phone. His expensive suit was ruined, his carefully styled hair plastered to his head, but his anger blazed undiminished. "Eva, enough of this nonsense. You're coming home now." His voice boomed through the small bakery, authority and anger radiating from every word. But before Eva could respond, Lily stepped forward, all 6 years and 40 pounds of her, and stood between Richard and Eva. "You're mean," she said clearly, her small voice carrying the weight of truth. "You're her daddy, but you're mean. My daddy says family means being there, not just paying for things. You make Miss Eva cry. That's not what daddies are supposed to do." Richard looked down at this tiny warrior child, and something in her fearless accusation pierced his armor. "You don't understand, little girl. I'm protecting my daughter." Lily shook her head solemnly. "No, you're not. You're protecting yourself. From feeling sad. My daddy feels sad about Mommy, but he doesn't run away. He stays." The truth from a child's mouth hung in the air like an indictment. Richard's gaze moved from Lily to Eva, and for the first time in 4 years, he truly looked at his daughter. She was soaking wet in a modest bakery, defended by a carpenter and a child, and she looked more alive than she had since the accident. The fire in her eyes, the determination in her posture, the protective way Daniel stood beside her. This was his daughter, not the broken shell he'd been managing. "Eva," he began, his voice cracking. "Dad," Eva interrupted. "When I woke up in that hospital, paralyzed and terrified, do you know what I needed? Not the best doctors or the fanciest equipment. I needed my father. I needed you to hold my hand and tell me we'd figure it out together. Instead, you disappeared into your office and threw money at the problem. Well, I'm not a problem to be solved. I'm your daughter, and I'm in love with this man who sees me as whole even though I'm broken." Richard's shoulders sagged, the fight leaving him as suddenly as it had arrived. He walked slowly to a chair and sat down heavily, looking every one of his 60 years. The rain outside intensified, drumming against the windows like an accusation. "I didn't know what to do," he admitted quietly, his voice barely audible. "When your mother died, I could work harder, make more money, build a bigger company in her memory. But when you got hurt, all my money couldn't fix it. I felt so useless. I am useless." Daniel spoke for the first time since Richard's arrival. "You're not useless. You're afraid. I understand that. When Sarah died, I wanted to follow her, but Lily needed me, so I learned to be afraid and present at the same time. Your daughter needs you, Mr. Lancaster. Not your money or your protection. Just you." Richard looked at this working man who had somehow understood what he, with all his education and success, had missed. I've lost 4 years, Richard said, his voice broken. How do I come back from that? Eva wheeled herself over to her father, reaching for his hand. One day at a time, Dad. Just like I learned to live with this chair. One day at a time. Together. Richard gripped her hand like a drowning man finding shore. I'm sorry, Eva. I'm so sorry. I turned you into a project because I couldn't bear to see you in pain. But I see now that I caused you more pain than that accident ever did. Lily, with the perfect timing of a child who sensed the storm had passed, piped up. Does this mean we can all be a family now? Because I really want Miss Eva to be my mommy. The innocent question broke the remaining tension, drawing watery laughs from all the adults. Richard looked at his daughter, then at Daniel, then at the little girl who had shown more courage than most adults ever would. If you'll have me, he said quietly, I'd like to try. I'd like to learn how to be a father again, a grandfather maybe. Eva squeezed his hand, tears flowing freely now. We'd like that, Dad. We'd all like that very much. 1 year later, Sweet Memories Bakery was transformed with white ribbons and fresh flowers for an afternoon that would blend celebration with remembrance. It was Eva's 23rd birthday. But more importantly, it was her wedding day. She had chosen to have the ceremony in the place where her life had truly begun, where a stranger's kindness had opened a door she thought had been forever closed. The guest list was small but meaningful. Daniel's fellow carpenters who had become like brothers to him, some of Eva's old friends who had reconnected once she left her father's prison, the bakery staff who had witnessed their love story unfold, and Richard, who stood ready to walk his daughter down the aisle. The aisle itself was wide enough for her wheelchair, which Lily had decorated with flowers and ribbons until it looked like something from a fairy tale. Eva wore her mother's wedding dress, carefully altered to flow gracefully around her chair, and when she smiled at Daniel waiting at the makeshift altar, she was radiant with a joy that seemed to light the room from within. Richard had changed dramatically over the past year. He had stepped back from day-to-day operations at his company, promoting longtime employees and trusting others for the first time in decades. He attended Eva's physical therapy sessions, learning how to help with exercises and transfers. Most importantly, he had learned to sit with his daughter in silence, not needing to fix or manage anything, just being present. He had also formed an unexpected friendship with Daniel, finding in the younger man a wisdom that had nothing to do with stock portfolios or market strategies. They would spend evenings in Daniel's workshop, Richard learning to work with his hands for the first time in his life, discovering the meditation of creating something beautiful from raw materials. When Richard walked beside Eva's wheelchair, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder, his eyes were wet with tears he didn't try to hide. You look beautiful, sweetheart, he whispered. Your mother would be so proud. Eva squeezed his hand. She would be proud of you too, Dad, for finding your way back. As Eva reached Daniel, Lily stood beside him as the flower girl, bouncing with excitement in her yellow dress that matched the sunflowers in her hair. The ceremony was simple, officiated by the bakery owner who had witnessed their first meeting and felt invested in their love story. Daniel's vows were straightforward and profound. Eva, you've taught me that love isn't about finding someone perfect, but about finding someone whose broken pieces fit with yours to create something whole. I promise to push your chair when you're tired, to carry you when needed, but most importantly, to always see you, not your disability, as the incredible woman who saved Lily and me from a life half-lived. Eva's vows brought tears to everyone present. Daniel, you and Lily didn't just accept my limitations. You showed me they don't define my possibilities. You've given me a family, a future, and a love I thought only existed in the books I read. I promise to be the mother Lily deserves, the wife you deserve, and to never let a day pass without choosing us, over and over again. When they kissed, Lily cheered so loudly that everyone laughed, breaking the sacred moment into something even better. Pure, unbridled joy. The reception was held right there in the bakery, with Daniel's carpenter friends playing bluegrass music and everyone dancing, including Eva, who spun her wheelchair with abandon, while Lily danced circles around her. Richard surprised everyone by taking the microphone and speaking publicly for the first time about something other than business. I spent most of my life thinking success meant never showing weakness, never needing anyone. My daughter and her new family have taught me that real strength comes from vulnerability, real success from connection. Daniel, thank you for seeing what I was too blind to see. Lily, thank you for your innocent wisdom that cut through years of my foolishness. And Eva, my darling daughter, thank you for having the courage to choose love despite my failures. Your mother always said I work too much. And she was right. But it's never too late to learn. As the evening wound down, Eva found herself outside, briefly for fresh air. The stars were bright above the city, a rarity that felt like a blessing. She could hear the laughter from inside the bakery, the music still playing, glasses still clinking in toasts. Daniel joined her, bringing a piece of wedding cake. "No one should eat cake alone," he said, echoing his first words to her. Eva laughed, pulling him down for a kiss. "I'll never be alone again, will I?" Daniel shook his head. "Never. You've got me, Lily, your father, and—" He placed his hand gently on her stomach. "Whoever this little one turns out to be." Eva's eyes widened. She had planned to tell him tomorrow. But somehow, he knew. "How did you?" Daniel grinned. "Lily told me you've been feeling sick in the mornings. She's very observant. She's already planning to teach the baby everything about everything." Eva laughed through happy tears. "The doctors said it might be complicated, with my condition." Daniel knelt beside her chair, his face serious but unafraid. "Then we'll face the complications together. That's what we do, right? Face things together?" 6 months later, when Eva gave birth to a healthy baby boy, they named Samuel Richard Morris. Samuel after Sarah's father and Richard after the grandfather who had learned to love again. The hospital room was full of family. Richard held his grandson with trembling hands, while Lily explained to baby Samuel all the important things about being part of their family. "You have to know," she said seriously to the infant, "that we're a special family. We chose each other. That's the best kind of family." Daniel stood beside Eva's bed, their fingers intertwined, watching their blended family with wonder. The journey from that lonely birthday cake to this moment of abundance hadn't been easy or straightforward. There had been challenges with Eva's pregnancy, moments of doubt, times when old patterns tried to reassert themselves. Richard had occasionally slipped back into his workaholic tendencies. Daniel had struggled with fears of loss when Eva faced pregnancy complications. And merging two broken families into one whole unit had required patience, therapy, and endless grace. But they had learned that healing wasn't a destination but a journey taken hand in hand, wheel by wheel, step by step. They had discovered that love wasn't about perfection but about showing up, day after day, especially when it was hard. Eva looked around the room at her father, cooing over his grandson, at Lily making the baby laugh with silly faces, at Daniel's eyes full of love and gratitude, and she thought about that wish she had made on her 22nd birthday. She had wished not to be alone. The universe, in its mysterious wisdom, had given her so much more. A love that saw past limitations, a family forged from loss and hope, and a future that proved that sometimes the most beautiful gardens grow in the most unexpected soil. As baby Samuel wrapped his tiny fingers around Eva's pinky, she whispered a prayer of gratitude for the broken road that had led her home. Outside the hospital window, the same stars that had witnessed her lonely birthdays now watched over a family that had chosen each other, again and again, and would continue choosing each other for all the birthdays to come.